Hello everyone, so with the Arsha meta, it has brought back a pretty big meta deck from back in the day, and that is anything that runs Hawk. Anything that runs Dark Hawk is going to perform very well into that matchup most of the time, and one of the big kind of revelations or realizations that I had was that a lot of Arsham decks are going to be very reliant on their own reveal abilities, so they're wanting to use Blob, Mystique, Rogue, Shang-Chi, Loki. The on reveals go on and on. I think most Arsham decks are primarily built with on reveals right now. And so with that, Cosmo has a very unique and very strong possibility and placement in the current meta. And so today's build is going to be a blast from the past. It has Cosmo, it has Hawk, and it has Devil Dino. So it has that kind of cross potential of being able to do a little bit of everything depending on what you draw. So Hawk is of course going to be your best line against Arsham decks. If you don't end up drawing it, you have your Devil Dino, you have Mystique, you have Cosmo into Mystique, which would end up giving you 2 Cosmos on the board. They wouldn't be able to use their blob at all, and so they're not going to be able to reduce the power of their cards that are on the board, and so you get quite a bit of benefit from that potential play. You can also use Cosmo as a way to protect your Hawk, to make sure that they're not going to be able to rip it away, they're not going to be able to counter it, and you are going to be secured in that lane, and then you just have to find a way to win one additional after that. And so the deck itself runs pretty smoothly. Instead of Maria Hill or Mirage, you could do Snow Guard to generate a few more cards, but I do like how poised Maria Hill is right now. Generating a 2-cost card, we have so much more variety of good 2-drops than what we had whenever she was first released. Mirage is also pretty decent. Right now, you're going to get quite a bit of value, similar to Morph, in that most of the cards in an opponent's hand are going to be high quality most of the time. And then the rest is just kind of lean towards adding that disruption, so your Rocks, your Black Widow so that they can't draw, White Widow to take away one of their potential spaces, and then everything else is looking at either countering or dropping those big power plays. And it works really well right now. And before we jump over into any games, I'm going to be live all next week as well. If my boss asks, I'm sick. But we're going to be live. I had a lot of fun streaming this week, and next week we're going to be the Twitch drops. So when those launch, definitely jump over to my channel. I'm going to be streaming as much as possible during that window, and I would love for you guys to join me. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. I hope you guys enjoy. 9 power. We have to beat 9 power to the left, which should be no problem for like a Devil Dino. Let's go Devil Dino and then Mystique. And so that's going to be 2, 4, 6, 8 actually, because we don't have the cards that are being generated. And then Coca, hey TLSG, is there any plans in continuing your free-to-play account videos? There is. I lost the footage on the account up to 90 days whenever I took my break. My hard drive got fried. And so I want to pick it back up, but I have to find the proper time to do it. Does Athena buff after the game ends? She will, yeah, so she'll buff afterwards. Otherwise, we could do like a Shang-Chi. So we might be able to do... That Cosmo is going to hurt us, I think. This would be 5 to the right, which is the biggest thing we can do for 3. And Devil Dino goes over this left lane, even though we only have 4 cards, because it has the base power. And so it really depends on what they throw over here. We're going to see if that's going to be enough. No, probably not. The Mystique and the Nocturne. Mystique not able to copy the Hawk because of the Cosmo. If that's the real Mysterio, we lose. If not, we're good. We are so good. That was so incredibly close. Probably should have not been winnable with just Athena. But the Cosmo, what I thought stabbed us in the back, actually worked out in our favor. We'll gladly take it. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. I'm against someone playing this deck. At least I can see what cards they have. It's interesting that it picked up so quickly. No more tilting today. No more tilting today. We are on our redemption arc. We are climbing up. The Onslaught Citadel is beautiful for this deck. We can always hide Cosmo into like a Devil Dino or a couple of other things. I love White Widow, but I think she should probably lose a point of power. I do too. She's the cheapest, most consistent clutter tool. Even if the Widow's Kiss isn't a negative power card, she is so pivotal and vital. So I agree. I think she's a little bit too flexible. 3 cost, I think, might kill her. 2 cost, I think, less power, potentially. And so they're going to transform whatever they play next into a demon. We may be looking at a bounce deck. We have Quake that was generated from Maria Hill, which could give us some decent value. We could shift Onslaught Citadel away from the left and push it to power up like a Devil Dino somewhere else. But since the Icebox did hit Devil Dino, it gets a little bit more difficult to play that one out. We'd have to look for some other way to navigate that power. So let's go with Mirage. They did play the Demon out already, which changed from the Hood. Or they changed their Hood into a Demon, and they created a Demon. So they have one in hand as well. So if they don't play it this turn, we'll be able to pull it in. If they do, then we definitely lose Eternity range. Titania, interesting. And so it looks like it may be a like Falcon Black Swan style deck. So we have to look out for that last turn flood. So we can Korg. Do we think they play in the left this turn? I'm actually seeing how many 1-cost cards they have. I'm afraid of a potential Falcon. And so this would be a line that I would consider if I didn't think they were going to either Beast or Falcon pull these back in this turn. So since it is, I think we're going to just go ahead and throw them with a Quake for now. Is this deck to collect the bounty on Arsham? It's good regardless. Like, it has some good Disrupt. It has the counterplay in Shang-Chi. And it does do very well against Arsham as well. I played 6 games in a row, no Arsham. Yeah, it's a lot less common right now. Let's do Hawk to the right. I don't think the Black Swan deck runs counterplays. I haven't seen it enough to comfortably know, but I don't think they do. We can do the Hawk, and then we have Mystique plus Titania on the last turn. And they're going to be able to flood this turn into maybe a Beast, maybe a Falcon. But I do want to snap into it because I don't think they run Shang-Chi. I think it's a pretty tight 12 in what they can do. They're looking to flood plus a Hit Monkey. And I don't think they're going to be able to have space for a Shang-Chi. Yeah, 3-cost would ruin her. Yeah, I agree. And so with the Black Swan into the Sasquatch, interesting. So they're not leaning into any of the pull-ups or anything like that. So let's go Mystique, Titania. We don't necessarily need to generate cards. I think we have a good shot at this right lane as long as they don't have a counter component. And then they only have one space to play in this left. And so this would be a pretty big double drop. We could also push to fight for mid if we thought that they thought that this was enough. But they have a lot more space to play. And so if they're wanting to flood Mysterio, Hit Monkey, I don't think the left would be able to keep up with a big power swing. There's no rush to be filling the Kissed lane immediately. Yeah, so especially a lot of decks, like it ends up being a 0-cost card. But if you're running a lower curved or a slower deck, sometimes that Widow's Kiss ends up staying. So, like, I don't think the 2-4, 2-4, I don't think that necessarily needs to be a thing. It gives you so much early game value in, like, PvA games and those sorts. And so they do play probably Hit Monkey left, I would imagine. Hit Monkey left. Can we outpower the big scale of it? It looks like we can. We are going to collect a 4-cuber here with the Titania, knowing the idea of what they are running and that they likely don't have those counter components built in. We were able to kind of abuse that, drop the Hawk early, and not worry about spreading into those other 2 lanes. We'll grab the 4 cubes, and we are on our upward ascension. We will go ahead and jump over into the next one. So the first location is Limbo. Next up, we have T-Sarge. Second one is Mojo World. A lot of times this deck can do fine at flooding the board. We have a lot of those early game kind of cheap resources that we haven't drawn this game, but we have our Agent Coulson potentially coming in next, or we've dropped down maybe a Cosmo. Because this would fill our hand 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We wouldn't be able to draw next turn. So I do like the idea of dropping Cosmo, but not into Mojo World because I want to drop our kind of low-cost cards there. But their really big impact comes from those on reveals. You think you'll be streaming on Sunday? I don't think so, Strange Hollow. I'm most likely going to be hanging out with my family. So they have 4 of our cards from Loki, so like a Hawk, a Dino, but sometimes they don't get as good of value from them as we do. This is still going to not allow us to draw, but we do have a relatively good hand that we're looking at. And since it's an Arisham deck, and we have the Hawk, we have this blocked, we have Mystique, I think that should be a pretty big snap, but I kind of want to wait it out just a little bit. Let them get some resources, and then we'll kind of go from there. The Rock Slide from our end, White Widow from our end, and then we generate Dracula's Stature and the Havoc from Maria Hill, which is not a bad last turn play for 4 power. Let's go ahead and snap into it now. We have the Hawk to the left, and Cosmo is really disruptive to Arshan builds. So if they were wanting to do Blob, if they were wanting to do something big and then an Goliath to make sure we couldn't counter it, or Cosmo really prohibits that. And so I think we do the Hawk to the left, and we may even skip on turn 6, honestly. So the Sarah reduction, they get a lot of cards to play. We may skip on 6 to make sure that we don't have initiative. But then we would be afraid of a potential Goliath. Be the only thing we would have to worry about. We can always do this to make sure that middle location gets capped out, which I kind of like. It wouldn't result in them going the full extent of the game, but it would make sure that we're not going to get Goliathed in mid on the last turn when we drop our Mystique. And so I like this. It kind of solidifies that win in the middle location with Mystique copying Hawk. Go ahead and do that, and they play Arshan to the right. They're not going to be able to play for mid anymore. And then the biggest way to counter, for an Arshan to counter the Hawks, would be the Blob, and they can only drop at max 1. And so we do force the retreat here. So were you saying Havoc was better in mid? The reason I dropped Maria Hill was to make sure they couldn't counter us with like a Shang-Chi or a Rogue or anything like that. So we will gladly take the 2 cubes. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. And so next up we have Stumbles, rank 496. And it is an Arshan deck. Nowhere's the left lane, so that's already a pretty tough location for them. And we have Korg, Maria Hill. I think I'm going to lean into... Let's do Korg for now. We have White Widow to add a little bit of disruption. If we draw Cosmo, that's beautiful. We can block 2 of their lanes, and then we're just focused on one of the other ones. We do get Devil Dino. Let's go White Widow to the right. I almost want to snap into it because we already have Hawk in hand. And they can't counter it nowhere. Let's go ahead. We're going to go for it. We're going to hope for a Mystique at some point, which would be a good way for us to bring home the rest of the game with our Hawk. Or if we get Agent Coulson, he can potentially generate one for us. But we'll see. So they skip on turn 2 as well. And they stick with the snap into the icebox, which gladly does not hit our Hawk. That would make it very clunky to use. But we do have the Black Widow, which is going to be the Widow's Bite. I'm a little hesitant to play anything else into the right lane. So we're going to play Black Widow into mid. That's going to make sure they don't draw on this next upcoming turn and just make their overall play line very unfortunate. And so with Quinjet, I'd have to worry that they're going to be able to do some pretty big things. I kind of want to do something like Cosmo, we do Hawk, we do Devil Dino, and then we're looking for those card generating tools from there. It would stop us from being able to do a Mystique, but I don't think that's too big of a mistake on our end. Let's go ahead and go Cosmo. Hopefully we hit something big in that middle lane. And we just... Okay, so it's the Nimrod. We could look to destroy it, which would be kind of wild. All right, let's go Hawk. We do have Agent Coulson, so we could generate additional cards in hand on the last turn. It's not going to be huge for a Devil Dino. And since Maria Hill got hit, we won't be able to do that plus the Devil Dino, unfortunately. So let's see what they end up playing here. Loki. So Loki's not going to be huge for them. They could have Shang-Chi, but they don't have anywhere to use it. Mystique becomes very tough to utilize. And they could have Dino. So they do have more cards than we do, but they're going to have to swing 2 lanes, so they have to play a couple of them. Shang-Chi's not really a viable one. It puts them in a really tough spot. I was thinking Devil Dino mid, but we do end up forcing the retreat. It's just one of those that is just so disruptive that they lose those potential ways to win. And so every step of that we were doing some kind of disruption into the big Hawk play, into finding a finisher from there. We'll take the 2 cubes. We're having just so much luck with this. It does look like a lot of retreats. And that's what this deck's going to do. Any kind of Hawk or Disrupt style deck, you're going to get a lot of retreats relatively consistently. But let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. Very, very soon, I'm sure. Dr. Killjoy. Here I am watching TLSG with 2 mates. Like it's the Super Bowl. Dr. Killjoy. That is such a big... that's such a big compliment. Hopefully your mates are doing well. Hopefully they enjoy it. And you just didn't just throw some random guy on the TV screen. But I'm glad that you're here. And then Mike.tv said, "Hey TLSG, we've matched up a few times and haven't had good matches. I was wondering if when we match up in the future, you could spam the Miss Marvel emote at me." Non-stop for fun. Thanks, name. My in-game name is Dara. Mike.tv, I think I can do that. I think I can do that for you. And so we have the Hawk in hand with Mirror Island, which is great against the Arisham. We have Black Widow. We have Baron Mordo. Rock Slide, some really good disruption. We're going to go ahead and snap it. We'll snap into this one. I think it puts us in a really, really strong spot. Yeah, Arsham has people building some weird decks. Just like where Hawk is there just because. I've seen some real, like a Hercules move deck that had Hawk in it. Just for the giggles. Which was probably one of the stranger ones I've seen. So we can do Black Widow in mid. We could also do it to the left. Or we do a Cosmo. I kind of want it to eventually Cosmo and protect that left lane. Very good call. No Widow. Because of the bar with no name. We also have Hazmat, so if we get something that's 0 power, so maybe like a Mystique without an ongoing, we can do that into a Hazmat, which would be a kind of crazy way to steal that location away. We either do Agent Coulson or Rock Slide. I like the idea of the Rock Slide. They do play a big War Machine. Ooh. And then Leech comes down, which thankfully we don't have Mystique in hand already. I wonder if they should have made Arsham the card that can be earned for free instead of Cassandra. It's a game-changing card, but I think Cassandra... Oh, that is such a good top deck right after Leech. We're gonna make them we're gonna make them very frustrated. You can't make Mystique negative? Not now. Before I could have. With the Mystique Hazmat, but they dropped Leech. It's like they heard it. Snap, we snapped earlier. If this was Deadpool's dinner, you would. Just enjoy your billion stats? Yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. So the rock, they did draw one of our rocks. They do use Cersei to change it into a Galactus, which would have been, would have ended the game had they not had additional cards there. But I guess the Cersei always had it in mind. We'd have initiative, so we have to look out for Shang-Chi, but if they Shang-Chi, we should just win the point differential anyways. And so let's do Mystique, Agent Coulson, and then see if they stick it out. Cersei summoned the Galactus Wolverine package. She did. Watch them get the hood off of Arsham. Ooh, we'd be a little frustrated. The Arsham, or the hood to the right, the Shang-Chi in mid. That'd be a devastating blow, but it's one that Juggernaut's the worry. Juggernaut's a worry too. There's a lot of worries with Arsham, and that's the thing that makes it so difficult is those snap lines are so hard to read. But we do end up Legion. Legion into Bar with No Name is also a very good shout. There's a lot of ways that Arsham can like sneakily win that game if they're flexible and if they have it. But those are all big ifs. Which it looks like they had none of them. Yes, so many ways to lose, which is the thing that I think is the most frustrating about Arsham when you're playing against it, and the most fun about it when you're playing the Arsham deck, is that you can get really creative and find ways to win that you shouldn't be able to. Next up, we have Blink. The first location is Olympia, so we draw into additional cards. I like the idea of going. We're going to go ahead and play our Maria Hill out, see what resource it gives. We have Mirage, and they're running an Arsham deck, so it's going to be a whole bunch of hodgepodge. Scarlet Witch isn't bad, depending on what the other locations end up being. Oof. Elysium is a little bit scary, especially for an Arsham deck. I mean, we have card generation, and so maybe it's not awful. Let's do White Widow to the left, since they did play a card into that lane. Is this deck an Arsham counter? It does decently against Arsham. And then we're going to play Mirage. We're going to see what their lowest cost card in hand is. Let's see. Loki. Wow, that is a big early turn 2 Loki. And so we're going to get one of our resources back in return. Potentially a Korg or another Maria Hill or another White Widow is great. We get another White Widow. Do they ever assume it's coming to the left? I mean, probably. But I'll gladly take it. And then we can do Coulson. And we may even rip away Elysium. We have Hawk and Mystique, and we have Cosmo. Looks like a big time snap. So they have White Widow as well. If they play theirs here, then they'll cap us out unless they play 2 cards into Olympia. Elysium turning a Hawk plus Mystique. Turn 6 seems good, no? It could, yeah. I could see that. That way we can drop it on the last turn. And with them having the cards that we have to look out for them having a Cosmo, though. So depending on if we have initiative or not. So White Widow on the left, they only have 1 more space to play over there. We'll see if they... Agent Coulson giving us Shang-Chi, which is not bad, and then Spider-Man. The Black Widow had no room to add any disruption, so that's great for us. Throw priority, then slam both on T6. I'd be a little bit worried about Cosmo. Would be the only thing that would be a big concern. But we can throw Prio here. Yeah, so they played our White Widow. Wow, this Loki was created by Arsham. They had another one in hand. So they played our White Widow. They played our Black Widow, and that would be it. And they got 5 cards from us. So they have 3 more somewhere in their hand. And so 9 more puts us to 7, and we'd still be... It'd be a point differential. So I think I'm going to play Spider-Man mid. I think there's a good chance that we are still able to dodge initiative. So the second Agent Coulson comes down. Oh, it's only turn 4, not even turn 6. You always top deck Ghost Spider anyways. We don't have Ghost Spider built in. So we have Korg. And I'm not sure if we want to throw any of these, because we could always throw like Cosmo. We'd always throw Cosmo, but that gives them a really detailed amount of information. I think we just throw Korg. That keeps us below initiative range. Actually, it ties us in mid, and so it may not, depending on where they play. The Gamora comes down, which is really, really big. We do have Shang-Chi, so if we wanted to take it out, we could. But I like the idea of Hawk to the right. Then it becomes a read. I think we're going to Mystique to the left. Because if they play Cosmo, they're only going to be 5 power. We are above their 5 power, so they can't Cosmo in the left lane and not have any issue. Blob right wins. Blob right could win too. But we probably should have thrown Cosmo down to stop the potential blobs. Hawk mid, Mystique left. We'll ship it there. And Eliath definitely wins it for them. So if they have an Eliath mid. Blob left also wins, right? No. Devil Dino mid, the Martyr. So we come in, the Hawk, and then our Mystique should copy it. It should be above it. And that's a little blob compared to 26 power Mystique. We will grab the 4 cubes. And this deck does really well. Really anything that has the Hawk line is going to be really strong into Arsham. One of the bad things about Arsham is that it's so flexible that it creates a lot of those big high variance cube plays or cube games. But we'll gladly take the 4. Let's jump over into the next one. And I'm missing Loki, Hawk, Mockingbird, and Blob. Ooh. So Junk deck works decently against both Arsham decks and Arsham deck counters. So if you have like Cannonball or Cannonball is a big one, but like the Debris style clutter, I posted a video on it today. It worked decently for me last night. I had it was like it was just under a 60% win rate that I was able to maintain with it. So Nebula starting out. It's not an Arsham deck. So I think we Mirage, we get some insight. We have Black Widow that will be that early disruption. And we have Rock Slide to follow it up. Whirl Girl. So we're looking at a Zoo deck. It's kind of scary. Let's go Black Widow for now. That's going to pull over into Astro Dam. We have Rock Slide as well. We might be able to, if we dropped initiative, we might be able to win with like Shang-Chi. I'm just mid pull 3 player. Gotcha. Gotcha, Hujay. So their Celine was kind of tough. Quinjet came down as well. And then they got a Kitty Pryde. So I like the White Widow. And we're going to go ahead and throw, bad as it feels, I'm going to throw Maria Hill into the negative zone and see what she generates for us. What time zone are you in? I'm in Central Time. And so the Widow's Bite to the right, the Khazar coming in. And so Blue Marvel is also going to be a really big one for him in that left lane. And then like a big Gilgamesh is also very, very scary. The Lizard's not necessarily what we wanted to see, but let's go Rock Slide. I'm also going to play Korg into negative zone, which is not a great investment, but we have Shang-Chi, so if we don't have initiative going to this last turn, we might be able to Shang-Chi the Widow's Kiss, or the left lane, and that would be ideal. But looks like maybe no, they have Jeff. Okay. How was your holiday? Yeah, I had a really good time with family yesterday. It was definitely very much needed. It was a good reset. So now the question becomes, do we Hawk or not? I think this is probably our best line. That puts 5 here. Because if they move Jeff and we destroy Gilgamesh. But they only have 2 cards that have been buffed up. So it could just be that they do a Blue Marvel. I feel like a Gilgamesh is a tough drop for them. Only be 11 power. And so 18 with the Gilgamesh right now. Ours would be 17. We might outpower them with the Hawk. Does Celine also count as buff though, having negative power? No. She'd be so it has to be a green number. It essentially just looks at the green. So this is going to be more power than a Gilgamesh drop. I think we're fine staying with this in the left. So they move the Jeff. A Blue Marvel might be kind of scary, but we'll see if that's what ends up dropping. The Gilgamesh, it is on cue. It comes in at 11. We have the 17 power Hawk coming in the left lane, the Squirrel Girl to push us over that edge. We end up with the Casserole. And so that was a little bit more strategic, being able to outpower that potential Gilgamesh. And then my dogs abandoned me too. They hang out with my wife in her office. So now it's a lonely stream, or a lonely content creation over here in my area. And so we're gonna start with Maria Hill. Next up we have Farofa. They're running Thanos, so Vibranium Mines is also really good for the Hawk stuff. Team Basket. Yeah, Team Basket and Team Doggo abandoned me, unfortunately. So I'm going to play Lizard into this unknown location. What kind of puppies do you have? So I have 3 Great Pyrenees. And so they're not necessarily puppies, but they're giant. We have 3 Great Pyrenees, anywhere between like 80 and 100 pounds for the most part. Kilshi, if your wife were to play Snap, you think she'll be goated? I think she'd be all right. I don't know. I think she'd be okay, but maybe goated is a bit strong. All right, let's go Black Widow. And I kind of want to play Black Widow into the cloning vats. Snap. Yeah, they're always puppies. Let's play Black Widow into the cloning vats, because that becomes a really tough idea of where do I play the Widow's Kiss or the Widow's Bite. If it's cloning vats, you're never going to draw again. Vibranium Mines, you're cluttering up your deck. And then the left would be capping out that location. Yeah, even if you don't replay it, it's just the fear of being able to replay it, which I think, looking at this hand, I think we do replay it. I think we go Black Widow. Let's go ahead and play Org as well. And then on 5, I think we play Hawk. We could always do Hawk on 5, Mystique somewhere else, and Cosmo if we drew it, to make sure that the Hawk was safe. And then playing into the Vibranium Mines with 3. They could have Reality Stone. Okay. So they do change it. They're going to have 1 more Widow's Bite, and so they'll have to either play it to the left and cap that one out, play it into mid, which is also unfortunate. Ooh, and we do get the Cosmo. And so now it becomes a Hawk into like Korg to the left or Korg mid, and Cosmo after the fact for the Hawk to kind of protect it from there. Korg voice line is so good. Yeah, I love it. It surprised me the first time that it popped up, but I do love his voice line. So we have the really big Hawk coming in at 23 power. The Widow's Bite they played to the right. And so let's go ahead and play Mystique first. We'll play it into... It's either mid or left. But I think we played into mid. Let's Cosmo to protect the right lane. And then they'll have to play for all three to be able to swing it back. We have a slight lead in the left lane already. I thought I was getting trolled when I first heard it. So did I. It surprised me because I didn't see the patch anywhere. And so they did play 2 cards on the right. I'm assuming they do like a Shang-Chi, and then Cosmo is going to be there as that last turn surprise swing to stop that from happening. Even if it wasn't in play, we had the left lane locked in. We stole back mid, and so we are able to get all 3 locations from the Thanos build. And just that Cosmo piece of it is very, very flexible. I was having a game break for some months and came back to the newest card now. Having such a great time. I'm so glad that you're enjoying it, Black Smoke. I think the one thing that Arsham does incredibly well is that it creates just some really fun, potential wacky games. Whether it's super strong or not, which it has an okay win rate, but most of its matches are versus each other, so it's really hard to get a gauge for it this early on. And so it's one that's, I agree, is a very fun card, and one of the more fun cards that they released recently. Yeah, you can click on the button, and it'll drag up the overlay. So we do have the Cosmo. I don't want to play into Shuri's Lab, so maybe it's like something like Cosmo. We eventually do Hawk. We can play Calling Wing here. Make sure that we have the most cards in this middle lane. So the Squirrel Girl alongside the Quinjet, and then Invisible Woman is kind of crazy. That is a lot of cards flooded very, very quickly. I think that's enough, honestly, for us to snap. Because we do have the Hawk and Mystique line. We have Calling Wing, Org. Next turn would be, oh my goodness, Coin and Cleavage. Thank you so much for the 5 community gifted. A huge support. That definitely pushes our hype train up a notch. So if you got a gifted sub from Coin and Cleavage, make sure to give them a big thank you. I appreciate the support. Hopefully you're having a fantastic day. But next turn would be Hawk in mid. And then we could always do like a Rock Slide. Maybe a Rock Slide plus a Mystique. We'll see. Why not 3 and 1 this turn, and then 2 and 3 next turn? Maybe. Not the snap streamer we deserve, but the one we need right now. Coin and Cleavage. I appreciate your vote of confidence for me. And so maybe it would have been better the other way around. The 3 and 1. Yeah, that way we could do 2 cards each turn. Yeah. But I do like the Hawk. We have Rock Slide, but we're not going to use it because we're going to be copying Mystique. We have to look out for them playing a Cosmo now, though. Cosmo now loses us the game if we don't have initiative. How does this deck compare to the Cannonball deck you put on YouTube? There's the Cosmo. And so the next card they play could be Mystique that they play into the left lane, so it does still get very scary very quickly. This one, I think it does just about as well against the Arsham matchup. It's just, it's structured a bit differently. We may end up losing 4 cubes here. Because, I mean, now we can do this, which gives us a free out here. And we can throw Rock Slide as well. But I'm afraid of a Mystique copying the Cosmo here. Or maybe an Alioth. Alioth would be scary too. I'm still going to ship it. It's really hard to retreat out of this. But the thing comes down, and then Rock. Ooh, interesting. Yeah, the Cannonball deck is really good. This one I think does very well as well. But it's still very, very strong. And so I'm curious what's in mid. I don't think there's anything that they can do to overcome 45 power. the Hawk. Theirs is going to be small in comparison to ours. And so we do get the 4 cubes. Very interesting stay from JVP. I'll gladly take it.